The space economy is going to be huge. Right now, rich and powerful people like Elon Musk, Donald Trump, and Jeff Bezos are working to ensure that space becomes the next trillion-dollar industry. And when they succeed, many millionaires and billionaires are going to emerge, and you can be one of them. You can be one of the people who gets rich from the coming space boom. So stick around, and we'll talk about how a career in library science fits into all of this and help you decide whether or not a career in library science is right for you. Hello, I'm Gene of the Space Guild. Be sure to subscribe to this channel and join our Discord server in the link down below. Now, the space economy is about to be huge, and you have a golden opportunity to prepare for and take advantage of it. So let's explore whether or not library science is the right pathway for you to find your fortune in space. Let's dive into it. I rate library science as a 2 out of 5 for market demand, because the services archivists provide are often irrelevant for young organizations, and large organizations that would use them only need a small number. And the space economy is dominated by startups that will not need them. However, many organizations associated with the space economy are governmental and often have dedicated roles for librarians. So, space librarians will find work far more easily if they seek it in governmental agencies. I also rate it as a 2 out of 5 for pay, because jobs in the space sector often pay more than their counterparts in the regular economy because they are supported by government benefactors. However, in the case of library science, the pay is suppressed by the relative abundance of people with the necessary credentials for working in library science, and by the low baseline level of need for them. So, you can expect to make more money than you otherwise would by working in the space sector as a librarian or some other kind of archivist, but people motivated by income should not become archivists in the space economy. Next, I'll give library science a 3 out of 5 in terms of difficulty, because space jobs are inherently technical and, as a consequence, are more cognitively complex than jobs outside of the sector. However, library science is one of the least technical fields within it, and much of the difficulty that library scientists will encounter in the space sector arises from the fact that in order to remain competitive, they must acquire advanced degrees. However, the software that librarians need to learn in order to work in the space economy changes infrequently. So, once the initial hurdles are crossed, the difficulty plummets. Now, I'll give library science a 4 out of 5 for job stability. If you can acquire a job as a space librarian, then you will not need to worry about being laid off or made obsolete. Again, government protection works in your favor here because governments rarely fire their employees. Furthermore, the services that librarians offer are necessary for large organizations. And librarian happens to be a low-key profession that executives rarely take into consideration when they are in the process of laying people off in order to reduce the costs of their operations. As a correlate of the previous slide, I will give librarians a 1 out of 5 for their startup potential. You should not become a space librarian if you want to create your own company. Now, this does not mean that it is impossible to do so, but much of the infrastructure for the job already exists, and there is little need for innovation in library science in space. Moreover, the people who excel as librarians rarely possess the temperament that is needed for entrepreneurship. And this matters immensely for the space sector because of how easily startups can gain traction within it. So, By becoming a librarian, you would sacrifice the competitive advantage that makes the space sector so alluring. And librarians rank as a 2 out of 5 in terms of respect. Librarians are necessary for large organizations, but they do not possess a sexy or heroic job. It is a quiet role for quiet people. So you should not become a librarian if you want to acquire the respect and admiration of your peers on account of your work. Now I'll give librarians a 5 out of 5 for their remote potential, and this is actually one of the areas wherein library science shines relative to its peers. And there's another one coming up. Space companies are already digitally transformed from their inception, so all people working in the space sector enjoy greater opportunities for remote work. And librarians can take advantage of this far more than others who work in the space domain because nearly all necessary documents are digital, and because librarians do not produce physical work products that require on-hands intervention in the way that engineers and technicians do. I will also rate librarian as a 1 out of 5 in terms of the power that they wield and their ability to acquire power through their professional positions. The librarian career trajectory is mostly static, and anybody who wants to attain social or political influence through their chosen profession should not choose space librarian. However, there does exist a silver lining in this regard. Librarians are middlemen through whom powerful people acquire sensitive documents. So, a librarian, despite lacking power, has access to people who do and may be able to leverage that. Next, I rate librarians as a 3 out of 5 in terms of how future-proof they are. This means that librarians are somewhat well protected from replacement caused by technological change. The service they provide is necessary, and automation is slow because many information sharing services that operate within the space domain are regulated by legal frameworks that preclude automation. And our 10th entry shows the final strength of space librarians: freedom, for which I rate it as a 4 out of 5. This means that somebody working in library science in the space sector can switch employers quite easily because of the widespread demand for information services and because the space domain is still highly esoteric. And this power is valuable because many managers are abusive. So the ability to leave your company is a precious insurance policy. Thus, we arrive at the final verdict. I rate library science as a 2.7 out of 5 for the space sector. It is a stable career that promises great work-life balance and which protects its practitioners from managerial malevolence. However, it fails to capitalize on the space domain's massive startup potential and should not be pursued by highly ambitious people. Therefore, it is most suitable for people with a female temperament and whose life goals are neither political nor professional. And if you want to pursue this path, then I recommend getting a master's degree in library science and learning to use common content management systems like SharePoint. Now that you've gone this far, go a little farther. Subscribe to this channel. I'm gathering recruits for the Space Guild, and we need you. Join our network, and we'll help you discover your dream and fortune in the space domain.